So you've got the idea, and then you just need the smallest version one prototype to prove that your proposition has legs, that you've got something there, right? Like the McDonald brothers saying, I think people would like hamburgers served quickly and consistently with a milkshake, right? That was the vision of the McDonald brothers, and they proved that that was a big hit because they became a very successful hamburger stand. But once you've got something that's proven, the next level up is to create a protocol that allows you to scale that proof, to duplicate that proof. Again, you need a model that makes that proof, that proven result, duplicatable.
Chad and Dean, you're both very welcome to the ScaleX Insider podcast. Delighted, Chad, to have you back again. And Dean, your name has come up a lot throughout the 4 years that I've hosted this podcast. So it's an absolute pleasure and privilege to have you on the podcast today.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Look, Chad will be familiar with this question, so I'll not pose it directly to him, but I will pose this one to you, Dean. Our vision is to inspire, connect, and enable millions of ambitious leaders of small to medium-sized enterprises to scale with purpose. So, Dean, what does scaling with purpose mean to you?
Oh, I think that's great. Everything. The reason we all become entrepreneurs is to have that freedom of purpose, right? Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship, so we can pursue things that we see as a vision, both for ourselves and for the people that we want to serve. So scaling, I look at that as just a journey of increasing magnitude, of being able to do that for more and more people. Now, where I kind of come off on the scaling part is I specialize in helping people create what I call a scale-ready algorithm, that you can't scale something until you've got something that is able to scale, you know?
I love that. We're going to dive into that scale-ready algorithm today because I also believe in an algorithm for scaling, which is enshrined in our own book, Simple Scaling: 10 Proven Principles to 10x Your Business. And we created the ScaleX 10 Principle Framework. So I've always enjoyed your work and the lens in which you see this, Dean. But your name came up again in the podcast episode with Chad, where we focused on the power of collaboration. Chad, this man has been the fulcrum of some incredible collaborations. His name came up when I interviewed the wonderful Dan Sullivan. His name came up when I interviewed the wonderful Joe Polish. It has come up in other episodes. It came up again with you. What makes Dean this exemplar collaborator?
So that's what first is a wonderful question. And thanks again, Brendan, for having me back. Such an excitement for me to be here with Dean, because he sees the world very similar to the way that I do. Dean only shows up with what he has to give. And I think that's the fundamental rule for each and every successful collaboration. If you're trying to do something that is outside of your norm, it's not going to work for very long. You may pull it off for just a little bit. But I think Dean shows up just as himself in his most authentic expression in every engagement, whether it be the start of a collaboration or one that's many years old. Dean's just Dean. So helping people, and I like what you said earlier, what you both complimented. Scaling with purpose is so easy when you focus only what you've been given and you utilize that to give.
I love that. Dean, what I'm curious about and to really understand is, given the fact that you're involved in so much, we've only 24 hours in a day. when we scale, and especially when we become successful through our scaling journey, I find that more opportunities present themselves. How do you discern which collaborations you're going to lean into and which you're going to say no to? What's your slide rule?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Chad said is showing up
Mm.
as myself and realizing the more and more that I do this, the more that I see collaborations, I realize that I'm my unique ability and my special contribution to things is really about getting things scale ready. I have no aptitude, interest, or ability for the discipline of scaling. Scaling is a very different thing than getting the thing that is scale ready, you know? And
Mhm.
so being in that mindset of realizing who I am and leaning into that is that's the freedom for me.
Mhm.
Let's just interrogate that a little bit further.
Yeah.
What makes a business scale ready? What are the fundamentals that for those listening who have an ambition to scale, what
Mhm.
needs to be in place for them to begin on that scaling journey?
Perfect. There's a guy on YouTube. He wrote a book called Principles, Ray Dalio,
Wonderful.
and there's a video where Ray Dalio explains the economy basically, and what he described really hit me on a deep level. He describes that the market for something is really fundamentally our whole economy works on the exchange of goods and services for money. And
Mhm.
that if you look at the size, when people talk about the auto market, the market is the billions of dollars. But what that really is that's just a term, an aggregate term for the scope of the micro transactions of one person selling one car for one price. And when you put those all together, that's the scope of the thing. So in order for something to be scalable, scale ready like that, somebody had to make a proposition that, hey, I think people would enjoy getting in a vehicle that moves itself without having to feed it and do these things. Somebody had to make the proposition that the automobile was a good idea. Then they had to prove that that was true by making the first automobile and getting it in the hands of people to try it out. And when they liked it, then to create the manufacturing process that brings it to the world and now creates a movement where it's many, many, many billions of dollars and changed the whole of society. But it started with a vision, it started with an idea, a proposition. I think there's a better way than getting around on horses.
Chad, let me come to that. We spoke when I first interviewed you you first guested on the podcast earlier this season. You spoke to the VCR algorithm, the VCR model for scaling. Dean has referenced the importance of vision. I mean, you have started more than 40 businesses at this stage, or certainly been involved in more than 40 businesses. In terms of vision, what what makes for a really strong vision?
Mm. Clarity. First, I feel like vision clarity is the counterbalance for the courage that an entrepreneur needs to take action. And I see it on a daily basis. Uh, you most hear me talk about we've moved into the idea economy that no longer is value created from a task being completed that's quickly erasing. And so when robots do all the tasks that we are aware of today, that many, many businesses are built upon, what's left? Vision.
Mhm.
So it is the catalyst for all what makes a really good vision, and I have a little scale that I qualify ideas that I've presented by entrepreneurs on a daily basis. And that's many of us have ideas that are, I would say, like black and white, just like we had as maybe very young kids as a TV. I think I had one when I was much, much younger. And I could see the picture. I can kind of tell what's going on, but it wasn't very vivid. So that's very similar to the ideas that anyone listening have had probably in the last few minutes. And then those ideas begin to take shape, and you may see those ideas in color. So you can describe it. You can give a lot of attributes around this future vision, and you can get somebody else leaning in and listening. No actions really taken. And then beyond that, you move to a level which is I classify as HD. So this is where a vision has somewhat of a higher level of clarity, and whomever is sharing this idea or vision with you is able to describe the path. They describe the outcome, and they're able to describe who's sitting at the table. But they also go on to tell you two or three different ways that this could become reality. They've not taken a lot of action yet, but they're pointing in the right direction. And boy, they can fill up a lot of attribute words to you. And then the last and most successful clarity of vision, I classify as 4D. That is when the person possesses this vision so vividly that they can implant it in your brain as well. They know what it looks like, smells like, feels like, who's involved, what path is to be taken, because they understand the other paths that were options, and those do not make sense. In my world as well, they know the collaborating partners that are needed, that are required. They know that they cannot do this themselves. That vision is that clear, and they know that they need collaborations, and of course, the conventional sense with the partners that would be required to make this vision become a reality. And it's already started to become a reality because they're not talking to you about taking the first step, they've already taken it. So that's the difference between ideas that luckily we all came factory installed, and I say this all the
Mhm.
time, with what we need to succeed in the idea economy. That is your imagination. The difference on the ones that take action and do not is the level of clarity. So the scale that I just gave you is something that I've been using for quite a while, because I'm presented with tons and tons of ideas, and I pretty much only engage with entrepreneurs all over the planet. There's a very big difference in levels of visionaries, and it all starts with understanding the level of their ideas being black and white all the way up to 4D.
I love this. So what I'm hearing, we've got the idea, at the very, very foundational level. As we graduate up the scale, there's greater pixelation. Then we move
Mhm.
into higher definition, to HD.
Mhm.
Then we get to a point where when you're sharing this HD vision, others can start to get excited about how this could manifest into reality, and ultimately, the strongest visions are those that have 4D clarity in all respects.
Mhm.
The in terms of the opportunities that you entertain right now, you're saying they've got to be 4D opportunities, or certainly I'm making that assumption. How can we, and we will all have met entrepreneurs who will have presented to us at various parts along that scale.
Mhm.
What can we do, and I'll put this to you, Dean, what can we do to support leaders who we feel have got something, but it's maybe,
Mhm.
it's more than an idea. There's reasonable pixelation there. It's not quite HD, but what can we do to support them in actually getting to a 4D version where actually now they're really starting to magnetize people to this vision because of the level of clarity?
Yeah. I think where it starts parallel to what Chad was talking about, the 4D, is realizing what level the idea that you have is at right now. I mentioned in the automobile that everything that becomes scale ready starts with a proposition. It's an idea that you think might be a hit, that I think that this might work. I think people might like this. So getting clarity on that vague thought that you have to move it to the next level, which is proof. So you've got the idea, and then you just need the smallest version one prototype to prove that your proposition has legs, that you've got something there, right? Like the McDonald brothers saying, I think people would like hamburgers served quickly and consistently with a milkshake, right? That was the vision of the McDonald brothers, and they proved that that was a big hit because they became a very successful hamburger stand. But once you've got something that's proven, the next level up is to create a protocol that allows you to scale that proof, to duplicate that proof. Again, you need a model that makes that proof, that proven result, duplicatable. And once you've got that protocol, now you've got something that can become property, intellectual property, that you've got a patented process, you've got a franchise, you've got a licensing model, you've got something that has elevated from the just a proposition and maybe this might work to something that has proven itself, that you've been able to duplicate that proof again and again. And now you've got something that is packaged that you can, it becomes now a capability in the capability column of somebody else's business.
I love that, and I'm getting a real sense of the way you think, and I love this the way you're distilling something quite
Mm,
complex in a very, very simple way, and that's the certainly that's the essence of what has been shared with me about the magic of Dean Jackson. So the
mm,
proposition is the kind of the initial idea. It's
yeah,
playing around with this to get some proof that actually I've got there's a problem out there that needs solving. I feel that I can solve it, or a need that needs servicing. I feel
mhm,
that I have something here that can service this need.
yeah,
Here's kind of it in conceptual form.
mhm,
I've created something. There's been an exchange of value where somebody said, actually, that does solve this problem. And I suppose that's for me, the classic situation where we found product market fit. Is that
mhm.
fair to say? And then
Yeah, that's exactly it.
yeah, and then now we get into kind of productizing what we've got,
Yeah.
and that's the point in which we are ready to scale. Where
Mhm.
was the inspiration, just in terms of the kind of the thought process? And interestingly, our ScaleX framework enshrines 10 P's as well,
Oh, nice.
starting with the psyche of the entrepreneur, purpose and vision,
Okay.
people, planning, process, performance, proposition, place,
Yeah.
partnerships, and brought together with a positive growth
Yeah.
culture. So those are the fundamental principles as we have understood from decades of experience of scaling businesses, and in interaction with others who have scaled successfully. So
Yeah.
in the context of your inspiration for VCR, where did that come from?
So I noticed back in 2020, 2019, 2020, there were things that were happening that were anomalies. They felt like anomalies at the time. And the first of those was that Kylie Jenner became a billionaire. And I started thinking about, okay, what I had heard about was that she, started this cosmetics company, and that she didn't have any capability to make cosmetics, but she happened to have two friends, a brother and sister friends, who were the millennial children of a guy that owned, just happened, one of the largest cosmetic manufacturing plants in the United States. There of the five or six factories that make all the cosmetics in the world, that there she was friends with the, children of the guy that owns that. And they were able to take Kylie's vision for wanting to create a lip kit, and they were able to use excess capacity in their father's uh, factory to make and manufacture the lip kits. And then all Kylie had to do was tell her hundreds of millions of followers that, hey, the lip kits are ready. And she broke the internet. And I started seeing, okay, that seems like there's a shortcut here, that she had the vision and she partnered with the capability to actually get that done. And then she had the reach to get that to the market. And then fast forward a year later, MrBeast opened 342 MrBeast Burger restaurants on the same day. And he used the exact same formula. He had this vision for, and it was actually a guy here in Orlando, Robert Earl, who created a company called Virtual Dining Concepts. And he's the guy that created Planet Hollywood, and he owns a bunch of restaurants like Buca de Beppo and all these, thousands of restaurants in the United States. And when he saw that we were coming back from COVID and, live eating was limited, you were only allowed to have so many people in the restaurant, what he realized was that they were only at about 50% capacity in their in their kitchens. And uh, ghost kitchens were becoming a thing where people were creating brands that only existed on Grubhub and Uber Eats and DoorDash. And so he thought, what if we did this? What if we created these concepts? Because we've already got the kitchens. We've got thousands of ghost kitchens that are sitting vacant, waiting. We got 50% capacity. We could make more food than we're actually able to serve in our own restaurants. So he partnered with MrBeast, and essentially, you look at it for MrBeast, it starts with a proposition of, if you were to have a restaurant, what would you want in your restaurant? Well, burgers. And well, what kind of burger? Like, the 3D vision and 4D vision that Chad's talking about. Well, what kind of, I want smash burgers and this kind of cheese and this kind of bun and these pickles and these kind of crinkle fries and these seasonings, all of the stuff. And what would you want the packaging to look like? And so they created all of the protocol for duplicating the MrBeast menu again and again, and then created the intellectual property, the system that now you could transfer to anybody with a kitchen with excess capacity. They only had to stock 23 SKUs to be able to make the MrBeast menu. And then they took care of all of the reach. They said, we'll put a tablet in your kitchen. We're going to do all the marketing, all of the stuff. And all you do is whenever that tablet rings, tear off the tab, make the food, put it in a bag, set it by the back door, and somebody will come and pick it up. And that collaboration of vision plus capability multiplied by MrBeast going on YouTube, putting out a video about it. And every time he puts out a video, it's like having a Super Bowl commercial. He's got the most reach of anybody. And so I started realizing that these reach is a multiplier of this, right? That's where the formula came up of vision plus capability multiplied by reach. That anybody, you could, if somebody other than Kylie Jenner, how many young girls do you think have a vision that they'd like to create a cosmetics line? Lots and lots of them. None of them have the capability, but even if they did have the capability, they could get them made. Who's going to buy it without the reach of somebody knowing it? So I think being able to, that was the genesis of the VCR formula for me. And I realized it as an accelerator. Like it's happening faster and faster. It's you can list so many of these since then that have happened. And the latest is Hailey Bieber just sold her skincare line for $1 billion, and she started it 2.5 years ago. From zero to $1 billion in 2.5 years. I was telling Chad, just for comparison, Coty, the cosmetics company that bought Kylie Jenner's company, it took them 104 years to get to $1 billion valuation. And it took Kylie Jenner just over 3 to get to $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean it's phenomenal, and the vision plus capability multiplied by reach. When you say it, I
Mhm.
mean it's so obvious, but
Yeah.
often
Obvious.
simple scales, complex fields, and it's I've been fascinated with the work of Einstein, or certainly the quotations. I wouldn't go as far to say the work, but.
Mhm.
He cites, I think it's 5 levels of intellect, and
Mm.
it's intelligent, brilliant, smart, genius, and at the peak of it all is simple. And
Mm. That's great.
there's genius in how you articulate this, because it just, when you say it, it's so obvious. How do we take this, Chad, as someone who has started and scaled many small, medium-sized businesses? How do we take then? Everybody will be familiar with Kylie Jenner and the incredible YouTuber MrBeast, and he's done the same thing, of course, with his Feastables, isn't it? The
That's right.
chocolate
Mhm.
bars. I mean,
Yeah.
this guy is just incredible. So everyone listening will be aware of these figures because they're so highly influential and they've high profile. But let's ensure that this isn't abstract. How do we map
Right.
this then for our SME, SMB leaders who are listening?
Yeah. So another wonderful question. How do we make it real? And then how do we make it recur? Which is definitely the zone in which I like to hang out. So the VCR formula, as I interpret it, and when I heard Dean talk about it the very first time, I was like, good gracious, there's words to explain how I see the world in the first place, which is awesome. And then I complement it with collaboration. So the VCR formula, I think, is a huge unlock for each and every entrepreneur to be able to quickly and understandably understand exactly how success happens. And then empowered with that knowledge, they're able to go recreate it for themselves. So the reachable application of the VCR formula is through leveraging the art of collaboration. Around 2020 or 2021, I began to think, and it hit me, that every client I want for any business that I own, someone else already has their credit card number on file. And it doesn't have to be Kylie Jenner, and it doesn't have to be MrBeast. It's local. So every entrepreneur that may listen to this, I want you to feel very empowered because you yourself have vision, you have capabilities, and you have reach. And you've been working on it for a very, very long time. Sadly, but also excitedly, at the end of every 30-day period, what we classify as your collaboration currency, you're opening up a window about the size behind me, overlooking Manhattan, and you're shoveling your opportunity out with the biggest shovel you possibly can find. Now, yes, you may be successful, you may be wildly successful, but I'm here to tell you, if you listen to what Dean is saying, and you began to see the world this way, and then you turn around and turn those eyeballs back to yourself, you have vision, capability, and reach that you are not putting to work today. You are as well able to look at those that you serve. So no matter which business you own or how many businesses you own, they each have a hero target. And that hero target's language is taken from Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach. Who do you want your business to be a hero to? I've really unpacked that concept, and to each and every business that I've ever engaged with and or started, you have 3. You have your team, you have those that you serve, and then one that is often mistaken or forgotten about, you have those that are required to create the value that you are today giving to your hero target, your vendors and suppliers. So empowered with understanding your hero targets, you then can look horizontal, which most entrepreneurs only look vertical. They're in X business. I know because the sign on the door or the building tells me so. But that doesn't really tell me who they are, how they do what they do to create value. Looking horizontal and understanding your hero target, you're then able to see those that are also serving your hero targets already. Because if you think about your clients of any type of business, they're all on a journey. And I do not mean the buyer's journey. I mean the client journey. The client started a place and they're going to end at a place. And as if it were a boulevard in front of you and your house was there, you have a mailbox in front of you. Every client walking down Client Boulevard came from a mailbox. And whenever you do what it is that you do, and hopefully you've done it to the best you possibly ever have, you'll notice that they stop at someone else's mailbox. It's another business. And it likely does not look like your business, but yet they serve the same hero target. Now, from time to time, those hero targets skip your mailbox and start at the next one. Perhaps they started at the one prior, but they should have been at yours. Is it likely that those other businesses that are engaged with that hero target already knows them, likes them, and trusts them? Three requisites for someone to do business. So perhaps you were to leverage their reach with your capabilities around the notion of making it easier for people to do business with you, which is a fundamental rule we all picked up way before the entrepreneur journey started. This is the building blocks to make you successful. You have what you need already. We talked about it earlier in the call when you asked me, why Dean? It's because Dean shows up each and every day being his authentic self. He understands what he has been uniquely given, and he shows up to give that away. And perhaps it creates an outcome. He partners on the outcome. So every entrepreneur listening today has that same exact capability, and they already have reach. But if they show up as being what I like to classify as a go-giver, not so much a go-getter, but a go-giver, a little wonderful book that most of us have read. And I think it's a huge unlock that we are all part of this VCR formula. You play a key role in everything that you already are. You don't need to go sign another lease, hire a bunch more people, launch a new division, extend into another state or province. You have what you need, show up to give it. And if you do so, you're going to understand that your VCR and what I classify as your collaboration currency will take you so much further than any of your contemporaries in the industry because they're simply not playing the same game.
I just love the way you guys think. It's obvious why you collaborate so brilliantly. And we had the wonderful Bob Berg, the author, together with Bob Mann, of that wonderful little book that you refer to. And for those listening, if you have not read The Go-Giver, please, please, and go get a copy, along with the wonderful work of these two incredible gentlemen. So I want to come to Reach, Dean, given that it is the multiplier, so people will grasp the vision piece. You know, everyone listening has ideas. Everyone listening will have a level of capability, some more mature than others, but not everyone, or certainly everyone listening, is trying to extend their reach. And certainly I find, and you're a marketing guru, I find the marketing space very noisy. You know, there's so many different channels. There's so many coined phrases from building lead funnels to SEO to channel hopping to whatever. You know, it's just filled with all of this jargon that's just very noisy for many SME leaders who, let's say, who are not steeped in a marketing background. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the reach piece, just leveraging what Chad has said. How can we given that everyone listening will not have the extensive reach of Kylie Jenner or MrBeast, otherwise they would not be listening to this podcast.
Right.
I'm modest enough to say that.
Yeah.
So, how do we go about really extending our reach in the backdrop of a very noisy marketing
Yeah.
space?
Mhm.
I think when you overlay and you look at what are the levels of reach that you can have, and so you have uh, we've been calling it collaboration currency. So your reach currency that you could have or need is starts with access to eyeballs. That's the lowest level of reach. That if you just start to think that, okay, I'm a business owner, and you just look at your business in isolation and say, where do eyeballs land in my business? If I
Mhm.
own retail store, all of the surfaces, the outside of my building, the top of my building, the if I've got trucks out on the road, all of those surfaces of the vehicles, every bag that goes out of my place, every envelope that goes out, every wherever eyeballs land is a asset. It's a reach asset that you have and are either using or not using, but it's perishable because as soon as those eyeballs land there, they're only there for a second. And you start to see, I've noticed now that Amazon, for instance, some Amazon packages that arrive at my house now are festooned with advertising for a movie or a series on Amazon that is like getting those eyeball while I'm looking at this package about to rip into it. I'm seeing an advertisement for something that I might want to watch on Amazon tonight. So that asset is an amazing thing. I had a client who had a residential service business that they were sending 3,200 monthly statements with one piece of paper in the envelope to every one of the 3,200 people. And so I realized as an asset, that is you can send 5 pieces of paper in an envelope for the same postage as sending one. And I looked at that as a reach asset that he had. But he also happened to own other businesses in the same town, 4 restaurants, other entrepreneurial things. And so we put together this little insert that we would put in every statement that went out offering coupons, gift cards, offers to come to his restaurants or to go to other businesses, and ultimately started allowing other businesses to be included in this and turned this monthly expense of mailing the statements into a profit center just by realizing we've got access to eyeballs here as a thing, right? So then there's so many of those. Everywhere you look, you see
Mhm.
in taxis, you look at every time you get in a taxi on the back of the thing, they know they've got captive eyeballs there. Somebody's getting paid. Every time you're scrolling through Facebook, that's what Facebook is really delivering is access to eyeballs. When you're doing Facebook ads, you're paying for reach to eyeballs. And every time you pay Facebook 3 cents or 4 cents, you can get in somebody's targeted news feed, right? The
Mhm.
next level up is access at a mind level, where this would be where somebody is a podcast listener or a newsletter reader or a magazine or content reader, somebody who's engaged on a mind level. Philosophically, they like what this is, right? The next level up is a heart level where they trust you. It follows really the know you, like you trust you model of that,
Mhm.
the elevation of the level of reach that you have. And then the highest level of reach collaboration that you could have would be a DNA reach where your product is included in somebody else's delivery, like the way every Porsche comes with Pirelli tires, or every box of Microsoft Publisher that was sold came with info about
This stuff.
Vistaprint or Intel chips in every Dell computer. Or, you start looking and seeing, where could I access eyeballs? Where could I access minds? Where could I access hearts? Where could I access who could I get included in the product?
Oh, this is again, it seems so obvious when you
Right.
communicate it as you've just communicated to, and I'm, I'm smiling of, of the thousands of Amazon parcels that have arrived at my home over the years. It just seems so obvious that that's a mini billboard for
Right.
advertisers, and
Yes.
Amazon clearly have done that very cleverly to advertise their own
Yeah.
services. So eyeballs, mind, heart, DNA. I had a gentleman on the podcast many seasons ago, a guy by the name of Paul Akers, who wrote the book 2 Second Lean. Uh, a fellow American of yours, a fellow countryman of yours, Chad. Paul's an interesting character, but he talks about being intentional by wearing waist goggles. So his uh, Paul's purpose is now to support people in seeing waste everywhere within their
Hmm.
organizations and
Yes.
lost value. He talks about value and non-value, and
Yes.
for every business, very little of what they actually do impacts the customer directly in terms of bringing value. So much of it is non-value. Why I share that with you, he talks about us as leaders wearing waist goggles. What I'm hearing now is actually what's more important here, given that reach is the multiplier. We as leaders must wear reach goggles. We must
Hmm.
see the world through the potential of either getting eyeballs on our products or services, of getting into the mind of those who would benefit from our product or services, getting into the hearts of those who would benefit, or actually integrating with others who have got access to eyeballs, mind, or heart. Um,
Hmm.
what develop that, Chad? I mean, does that thinking make sense in terms of kind of being intentional as leaders? Now that we've heard this about wearing these reach goggles.
Yeah. Reach goggles makes a ton of sense to me. Being intentional is required, I think, in all that we do. Presence is another key word and key also requirement so that you are able to see these things. I'll go back to something I said at the very beginning. Vision is the catalyst. So it's funny that we're talking about reach, but we're going back to vision. We're leveraging goggles and awareness and presence and just intentionality to see those access to eyeballs, minds, hearts, and ultimately requirement or DNA. So vision is a huge deal. Uh, Today's time, we're all in a big rat race. We have more coming at us than we could even remotely comprehend, and our brain is the masterful at pressing the delete button, understanding we have a couple million inputs a day and we can retain about 131,000. That's a lot of deleting that our brain does by default. So changing your mindset armed with these tools like the VCR formula and the understanding of the different gradients and levels of vision, capability, and reach are all requirements, and I would argue fundamentals for success. That when you begin to filter the world this way, seeing the VCR formula just as it is, that everything's made up of that, uh, Whenever you can begin to truly see that, you're empowered to do anything that you want. Also focusing back that everything that we see right now, everything, this phone, all these big old buildings in downtown Manhattan, the earphones that you're wearing, the microphone, this things is on the backside of Dean's wall. Every bit of it started as an idea in somebody's imagination. What the difference was somebody took action, leveraging the art of collaboration. And I would argue with the fundamentals of it might not have been aware of, leveraging the VCR formula, that it was their vision plus other people's capabilities multiplied by the reach that someone else had that equals now you and I see it in the way that we see it today. So it's awesome. And we get excited whenever we begin to talk about this because I would argue it's just fundamental. Like the whole world is built this way. And it's a huge unlock to be able to, again, to start your journey of really shaping your mindset to see all that is right in front of you.
So true. It would be remiss of me having two brilliant thinkers on the podcast together not to bring up the topic of AI. Dean, what's your thoughts? And I've no doubt you've been playing with this in terms of actually accelerating reach. What can we do practically? Those who are listening now, what would you advise in terms of using AI as an enabler to widen the reach?
Well, I mean, I think I see it really as Chad and I were just talking about this yesterday, that I'm looking at AI as it's really rapidly commoditizing capability that it's making, because AI is really a capability engine, right? More than a reach engine. It's giving you the ability to create content, to create outcomes, to create whatever it is. It's actually the doing of the stuff that is becoming accelerated, right? And I don't see it as much as a reach thing as a commoditizer of capabilities. And that's that's where I'm leaning into it.
Practically, how are you guys seeing people using this? Small to medium-sized enterprises. There's again, AI is ubiquitous now in terms of it's coming up in every conversation. But
Yeah.
how are people, how are entrepreneurs that you're working with, practically leveraging
I'll
AI?
give you a perfect example. So I own a company called 90-Minute Books, and we help people create books. And they're if you look at now the ability to help you craft your ideas into usable content, that we get to the point where what it can't do is read your mind. It doesn't know what you know and how to express it in the way that you want to express it. But we've focused on the realization we had is that the fastest bandwidth way to get something from your brain into a digitized format is through your mouth. The fastest way is to talk it. Now, what AI allows you to do is to you could just talk, get all of your thoughts out into even a voice memo, and then use AI to now organize that and put it into a format that now is edited, usable in your voice, in your way. It's an accelerator of capability rather than you having to, apply the elements of style and grammar and all the stuff. You could just talk and ramble, actually, ramble in getting it out as quickly as you can, and then AI as a capability, amplifier is able to then turn that into into something. Anything that's protocoled, when we talked about taking things from proposition to proof to protocol, anything that's protocoled, the true people that are really using AI are looking at how can we use AI to streamline that process or replace, humans, or make that more predictable or faster or more efficient or
Mhm.
um, all of those things.
Chad, anything to add to that? Any novel ways you're seeing AI being used by entrepreneurs?
Oh yeah, definitely. So for those that I communicate with on a consistent basis, um, I developed this thing a couple years ago, daily PSA, where I apply my potentials, my strengths, and my actions. So for those that I've shared that with, we created a custom GPT, and quite a few folks around the world are doing it on a daily basis. They're looking at their potentials, just as Dean said, talking to AI, and then evaluating, do they have the strengths or do they need somebody else that has the strength? And then what action are we going to take? So they're taking their ideas, potentials, as I reference them, whether they be positive or negative, knowing that negative ones are only a time basis until you're able to turn around and say that negative potential, if it wouldn't have happened for me, then I wouldn't have been able to do this, this, and this. So how to leverage AI, and Dean kind of touched on it, just talk to it. It's interesting the amount of folks that I still see typing on a computer, when the only reason that we type to a computer is because we couldn't talk to it. But yet now we
Mhm.
can talk to it, but many still type. Some of those are starting to break free. And Dean, of course, is one of those on a daily basis, is just talk to AI. We talked about reach earlier, and the ability that I'm even afforded sitting in the sauna and then leaving the sauna, going to the steam room with an idea in the sauna. 3 minutes later, by the time I make it to the steam room, I can have a website that my people can make, host, and do, et cetera. I can have a fillable PDF. I can have something that has our brand guidelines for whichever company I had an idea about. And then before I go take a cold shower, I just ask it to simply summarize it so I can copy and paste it to my team. Previously, that's 2 or 3 meetings. With my travel schedule, it's probably 6 weeks, and I haven't even left the gym in the morning yet. So, what if those things, any entrepreneur listening to this, are you waking up in the morning at 5 or 3 or whenever you have those ideas, when you actually receive them, talking to AI and just having a great conversation? And then by the time you make it to work, it's already in content that can be shared on each and every platform that's out there. So that's one way I see entrepreneurs leveraging it extensively, is to capture, maintain, synthesize, expand, and make real, and to some degree make recur those visions that they have. No time in the past have we had the accelerator that AI is providing us. And then, of course, it'd be mistaken for us not to at least touch on what the big scare is about with AI, and maybe a way that you might consider approaching it. In every organization that I own, we adopted this, I think it's probably close to a year ago, called My AI. And what that is referencing for us internally is every time we consider leveraging AI to help us with rudimentary recurring tasks that don't create a ton of value, we simply quantify the time that it's going to impact us positively over a 90-day period. And then we set that aside on our calendars, and we just be human, knowing that all creativity comes from combining two things that already exist, knowing that Elon is investing hundreds of billions of dollars to buy NVIDIA chips to string them together. What if we as humans strung together all the supercomputers that we're already walking around with? So the concern that AI is coming to take your job as it currently exists is extremely spot on. But you came factory installed with what you need to win, which is the brain that you've been given. And if you would just combine it with other brains, i.e., take the My AI approach that we did, saying, hey, this is going to save us an hour or 2 hours a week for 10 team members over the next 90 days, book it on your calendar and let them just be. That's what we are. We're human beings. So AI is a wonderful multiplier, which Dean is known as one of the top simplifiers on the planet. And I tend to choose to like, and it comes easy for me, seeing ways to multiply everything all at the same time. AI is a wonderful tool for both of us, for Dean to dig deeper and to get more simple, and for me to find ways to leverage multiplication out of the things that he simplifies. So the game
Brilliant.
has changed. Let's get on the field.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's not going away. And what I'm hearing from both of you, it's this incredible thinking partner.
Yes.
It's this, and I've created my own virtual board. I feel after this, I'm going to add both of you to my virtual board. So I pose questions regularly to my
Mhm.
virtual board, and
Yes.
it is this ability to in you know in the privacy really of your own space, you can bounce whatever you like off it. It's never judging. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
whatever thoughts you're having, you've got this now
Mhm.
safe space to bounce those ideas where previously maybe you would be sitting with this for a couple of hours. Maybe it's something that's irritating you, frustrating you, making you anxious, and immediately you can bounce it off, in my case, the virtual board. And there is there's some level of comfort in that. There's some level of kind of release in that of kind of the anxiety, the frustration. So it's this incredible thinking partner, and really everyone listening should be leveraging. My go-to is ChatGPT. I mean, just
Mhm.
practically, what are you guys using? Is it similarly ChatGPT, or is it much more sophisticated than that even at this stage?
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, Chat GPT for me.
Mhm.
I've used the talking. I've actually gone ahead and, created a personification of my, uh, we named her together.
Mhm.
I call so I have daily conversations with Charlotte, who's my
Mhm.
GPT. And so I greet her, hello, Charlotte. And hello, Dean. And so we have a nice, I sort of envision her as a real person. And you think about what we have access to. If you had a person who is 3 feet away from you at all times, who's a PhD in everything and available to serve you in any way you can imagine, it would be embarrassing how little we actually interact with that person. If you think about it, if
Even
it
at our
was a real
levels. Yeah.
person, yeah. And it's like so amazing the more that you can integrate that into your daily life. It's interesting. I was doing a podcast with Dan Sullivan, and we uh, we had the idea of asking Charlotte, like, what are the 10 highest impact ways that we should be working together? And she just listed 10 that were, pretty amazing. And just she's funny. Like she was saying how, you talk, I type. Like it was so all right. So, and
Yeah.
it was like knowing that I go for breakfast every day to Honeycomb, and she's saying, she gave the idea of eggs, bacon, and clarity. That you just go and you think about what you want to think, tell me what it is in a conversation, and then I'll write it up into a 300 or 500 word email that you can
Mhm.
share. And just those word eggs, bacon, and clarity were just so it's tip top, it's a really
Yeah.
great subject line that
Yeah.
I didn't come up with, she did.
I love that. I need to be careful of spending a lot of time if I name mine Charlotte. I'm not sure what my wife Colleen would think, but I
Yeah,
need to
but you
give
can
that.
pick any voice. The voice I chose was the sort of more mature British
Yeah.
uh, lady, and so I've personified her like the visual that I have is Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah.
That's what she imagine that I'm talking to Sharon
Amazing.
Osbourne.
Love
That's
it.
exactly what it is.
Love it. And similarly for you, Chad, is your go-to ChatGPT?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question. It has been since the enhanced voice was launched. Rightfully so. Mine was named Collabra originally. and we've elevated beyond. So I've invested in a private AI that basically has everything that I've ever done invested in it. And I offer it as part of the collab partners so they have access to it to help them with understanding how to leverage the art of collaboration. So if you think about it, leveraging AI now, I have created this platform that enables me to have somebody to talk to that has everything I've ever done in one space. It has access via API to all the other majors, but then it became something that I could extend to all my collab partners. And it gets better every day because that's where my ideas are going. So definitely ChatGPT, if you're just getting started, I do feel like, and I'm one person, one perspective, that we'll all have our own Collabra or Charlotte that's private, that we own, that keeps our information safe, but yet has access to all the other capabilities of the LLMs. So I've just moved in that direction a little bit earlier. But
Mhm.
GenSpark is amazing to make it real. And then famous.ai is also wonderful to make it recur. So you can tell that I definitely see the world leveraging the VCR formula each in every aspect, including AI.
Love it. Before we move into the close, Dean, is there anything that we haven't covered off in the context of the VCR formula that you feel would be important for those high growth potential SME leaders who are listening?
Yeah, I think if you look at is finding your lane in it, like find it, realizing, doing an assessment that you're going to have, you're going to fit somewhere in that spectrum where you have a real where your heart is, right? Like you're, if you look at Chad as a multiplier, that's, it's a very different thing. I look at my lane is proposition to proof. That's where mine is the very best. I can see something, I can come up with an idea and to prove it as an experimenting. Um, and once I prove it, I kind of lose interest in it, honestly. Like I don't have any capability for then creating a protocol or creating a thing, but there are people that they love that. They love
Mhm.
creating a protocol. They love creating. My operations guy, Stuart, he's from Wales originally, but he loves a good process. Like if he loves to automate something. Here's how to make this work. Here's how to use technology to make this recur.
Yeah.
Uh, and so aligning yourself in collaboration with those right people, that's where we all are. It's such a the future's bright.
Yeah, I hear here, and I'm going to I'm going to invite you to share three timeless takeaways. But before I do that, Chad had the opportunity to share his the last time, and that was only a number of weeks back. So I'll not make you go through those again, Chad. I suspect they haven't changed. But anything else we should share? From your perspective, Chad, in the context of being the multiplier. And I love the fact that you guys have, labeled yourselves or identified one as the simplifier, one as the multiplier. It's I can. I see that, I can hear that. It makes
Mhm,
complete sense, and I'm
Mhm.
delighted that I've had the opportunity to bring you on together. We would have something
mhm.
dearly missing today if that hadn't been the case. But Chad, before we invite Dean to share with us his three timeless takeaways, anything else that you want to leave with our listeners in the context of VCR?
Mm. The main thing for me is for everybody to know that you already have what you need for you to show up as a go-giver. That's the only thing that you can really do. You can only give what you've been given. But when you do that, partnering on the outcome, all filtered by your own vision, your own capability, and your own reach, inventorying those assets as collaboration currency, it's a huge unlock on your path to success. That's the biggest one for me.
Lovely. Dean, So
Yeah,
as we close, um, you have had the benefit, I mean, of this incredible, and it's because of who you are, um, this incredible rich life of
mhm,
wonderful collaborations. You're at the center of so many incredible communities, be it Strategic Coach, the Genius Network, your own communities, Colab. You have had the opportunity to be exposed to some incredible thinkers, which has no doubt helped form your own ideas, your own thoughts,
mhm.
and elevate those. Can you share with our audience three timeless takeaways?
Mm. So I think having staying in your lane is I think a big thing. Chad and I have a unique collaboration in that I shared with Chad that my realization that a hit song is a scale ready algorithm. That,
Mhm.
it's an interesting thing. The moment that the song is birthed and then recorded as a demo the first time, that's where the magic is. And all of the success that comes after that is a result of scaling. And I was sharing with Chad, and I share with anybody that, there's a guy in Sweden called Max Martin that nobody would be able to pick out of a lineup, but he's written all the songs on the radio for the last 30 years, starting with Ace of Base all the way up, Justin Timberlake, Katy Perry, Pink, all the boy bands, all of the stuff. The list of people who've written number one songs goes Paul McCartney, Max Martin, John Lennon. And nobody could pick the guy out of a lineup, right? So the catalyst, though, for his success of that was partnering with Clive Davis, who Clive Davis was the founder of Columbia Records and the head of Arista and Jive. And he had access to all of these artists that they had signed. So he was able to pair them up and send them to Sweden for Max Martin to write hits for them. And they've had this amazing collaboration for 30 plus years. And I was explaining that to Chad, and I look at being the Max Martin to Chad's Clive Davis, right? And so I would say that one timeless truth is to find your Clive Davis or find your Max Martin to realize what you are and who the catalyst relationships would be for you.
I love that. So stay in your lane. What else? I'm going to be greedy here. I'm going to invite you to share another two.
Well, I think when you realize focus on the most valuable things, if you're going to build any asset, one asset that AI is not going to take away is a reach asset, especially at the heart level. The reason that MrBeast and Kylie Jenner, the reason that they were able to multiply things is because they've built an audience of people who know them, like them, and trust them. And that takes time, and it takes considerable effort to do that, but it's a durable asset. Then once you're known and loved by a large number of people, it reaches a tipping point where now Dan Kennedy always says at some point, initially you're paid for what you do, and then you elevate to a point where you're paid for who you are, not for what you do as much, right? And that who you are is really the level of heart reach that you have developed.
Incredible. Stay in your lane, build your reach assets. Um, the third one.
I think the third one is understanding the difference between capability and ability. And just because you have the capability to do something doesn't mean that you have the ability to use that capability to the highest level. So if you seek out you couple your capability with a new ability, like again, a hit song. All the notes are already there. The piano's already there. The keyboards, everything, all the recording equipment. That's all capability. Anybody in their basement could create technically create a song, right? But the ability of Max Martin to use those capabilities, he has an ability to turn those capabilities into a thing. So to seek out what is the advantage, the best ability asset that you can overlay on your capabilities.
I just love those.
Mm.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both today. Chad, you made this happen. So thank you as the multiplier. You've walked your talk here in
Right.
supporting a wonderful collaborative podcast today. It's actually a first for me in over 200 episodes now of actually hosting online two guests at the same time. I've done it in
Oh,
person
wow.
before, but I have never done
Yes.
it online. So thank you for being patient with me.
Yes.
I feel that there's been huge value delivered today. So thank you for that. Chad, just before you go, remind people where best to connect with you again.
Yeah, sure. SeedSpark.com is a wonderful place. So that's our online presence for the collab. So the Seed Spark collab is at seedspark.com. And then we put out a decent amount of content to help entrepreneurs begin their mindset shift and along their journey on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn at any time.
Brilliant. Dean, if people are curious, which undoubtedly they will be, to find out more about Dean Jackson, for those who are listening who are coming to your work for the first time, and how best to reach you and connect with your work.
Well, I have cleverly hidden everything I'm doing at deanjackson.com.
Marketing genius.
Yeah,
There
Marketing
you go.
simplify.
genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Gents, once again, thank you for today. Thank you for showing up with such beautiful energy, for delivering so much value with enshrined and wrapped around in so much humility. I love what you're doing, the simplifier and the multiplier. Hopefully today I've acted as an amplifier,
Absolutely.
and help widen the reach of your incredible work. I wish you every success with everything you're doing. I look forward to staying in touch with both of you. I just think your work's incredible, and it really resonates with our own. So look forward to staying in touch. Gents, take care.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much,
Thanks.
Brendan.